Welcome to Chamber TV. So today we have a very interesting guest, Zach Churchill. He's both the MLA for Yarmouth and he's the leader of the official opposition. I'm excited to have Zach here. So as stated, my name's Dan and you are?
Zach Churchill, leader of the opposition in Nova Scotia and the MLA for Yarmouth. And I've been doing this for 14 years today, actually.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
This will be my 14th anniversary.
So you probably know what you're doing by now.
Well, I'm at least good at pretending anyway, Dan, if I don't know. But no, it's been a really, engaging and meaningful career.
Yeah.
I've served the community and served in different cabinet portfolios and now have the honor of leading the opposition in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that's great. I was really impressed when we had lunch in Yarmouth and everybody was hugging you. I'm thinking you're pouring in on my time.
yeah.
But I enjoyed that. That was fun.
I grew up in, my mother's side's Lebanese, so I grew up in I'm half Lebanese and grew up in a Lebanese family and culture, so hugging's a big part of that, a big part of the Nova Scotia culture.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That makes it nice. Yeah, so we've got an election coming up.
I believe so.
Yeah, and rumor has it that it's going to be announced fairly soon.
Well, we don't know. I mean, Tim Houston's first law was a fixed election date for July 2025. And at the time, he said how important that was for democracy to have a fixed election date. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see if he breaks his word to Nova Scotians and breaks his own law on that.
Yeah. It's not very far away.
That'll be a year away. But like you, we're hearing rumors that there could be an early election call. But I mean, that would, if Premier Houston did that, that would be breaking the first piece of legislation that he brought in as premier, and I think that would say a lot about what his word means if he did decide to do that.
Well, my reaction when they recessed the legislature for 6 months was, here comes an election. So that's where I kind of thought that.
Yeah, well, listen, you never know. Again, if he keeps his word, it'll be next year. If he breaks his word, it could be earlier. But we have to be ready as a party and as an opposition for whenever that happens, and we are ready.
Yeah, that sounds good. Naturally, as I'm the CEO of the West Nova Chamber, I've got initiatives and things that I'd like to see happen. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what's transpired in the last year that we've been working, and I'll start off with the ferry. Mm-hmm. Now, we believe we're the ones that really led the fight, but we knew that you were there fighting for it as well, and we appreciated that. And I think that having that huge emphasis that we had radio, television, everything, we got the federal government to change their mind in 3 weeks, which stunned everybody that you could change the federal government in 3 weeks. But
others have tried and they weren't successful.
That's right.
But I mean, that was such a incredibly silly move to try and take the ferry out of Digby here. I mean, that connects us to New Brunswick. Most of the seafood products that come out of Nova Scotia are coming through that ferry as well.
That's right.
So that would have been absolutely devastating to our seafood export, not to mention our tourism connection.
How do you plan for a tourist summer if you don't know if you have a ferry?
No. So you certainly, we were happy to help provincially too and raise the alarm on that because nothing about it made sense. Plus the province is subsidizing half of the Fundy Road. So for them to even consider taking it out of here and placing it in Quebec, I think was really ill-advised. I think once the federal government understood that, they were happy to change course.
Yeah, so we were really happy to see that could be changed. And related to ferries, the Cat ferry out of Yarmouth, I don't understand why they even start talking about whether that's necessary or not. What the heck is that?
Tim Houston built his political career on beating up on the ferry between Yarmouth and New England.
Wow.
So when he was opposition leader, that was something that he had a big issue with, and he really undermined the public opinion on that service for a number of years. So now they're in government, they have to actually look at it and hopefully understand that ferry generates an incredible amount of revenue for businesses, but also for the province. Yeah. Last year, the CAT probably brought in $30 million to Nova Scotia.
Wow.
And we know that based on exit survey data and what tourism Nova Scotia is tracking. So we know that tourists that visit Nova Scotia through Yarmouth on the CAT spend twice as much time here. They spend twice as much money, and they have bigger parties. They're larger families that are traveling.
Yeah.
and the financial impact of the province and the economic impact is not just in the Yarmouth area or the Tri-County area. It goes all the way up to Cape Breton and even beyond.
Yeah, that's amazing. The concept of taking the cat away, I've heard the figure that they spend 40% more than the average tourist, which sort of relates to what you were saying about them spending double the amount. Depends on how you calculate it. But that's huge. And I don't think that it's been put out there the impact of $1 in the economy changing hands every time. Yeah. So I don't think that's properly considered, and I think they really need to. I just see it as completely unacceptable to even talk about it. And as the chamber, we're going to fight like hell over that. At the next time they come up with wanting to move that, we're going to be fighting, because we need to do everything we can. We've got two big things here. That's tourism and the fisheries, and we can't lose any of that.
Well, that's right, and we're seeing issues with the lobster fishery that there's evidence that they might be migrating, and that's an existential problem for our economy. And the other big industry is tourism, and we're a beautiful location, and it is frustrating politically to always have to fight for investment down here or for attention, whether it's the ferry, whether it's the art gallery, the western branch of the art gallery that was just shut down in Yarmouth, or trying to get our highways twinned. The amount of tax revenue that comes out of western Nova Scotia, that comes out of the Tri-Counties, the strength of our economy down here, how much we're contributing to the rest of the province. I know when you consider how much we're giving and how we have to fight for the very small investments that we get back.
That's true.
I think is really frustrating for a lot of business people and a lot of residents down here.
Absolutely. And on that subject, my other frustration was the darn road signs falling apart. And we tried with the current government and Public Works. We started a year ago, and we made the Chamber's #1 initiative to get these signs fixed. So first we were told they didn't have the staff. So we went out and we sourced a contractor who quoted on it. Then they said they didn't have the money. And so then we did radio and television and front pages newspapers, and lo and behold, they have the money to build signs. I was told just a couple of weeks ago, we've got hundreds of them made, they're going up.
Well, if there's one thing that the Houston government responds to, it's bad media attention. So I think you were wise to put some public pressure on them, because those signs are critical. I mean, we're going into a summer where 30,000 people are going to be visiting our region because of the Congrès Acadien National, the National Acadian Congress.
That's huge. And my wife Julie was really upset. She said, "This is so embarrassing. How can we have this?" Well, and it was embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, and there's a safety issue, and you do want people to know where they're going, especially when they're visiting from other places. And Nova Scotians don't always know, which exit to take unless there's the appropriate sign there, or stopping for gas or food. These things really matter. And if you compare our signage to New Brunswick or PEI, our closest neighbors, it's night and day. They do a much better job than we do with the signage.
The one thing they're really good at, we took a picture of the exit 28 sign laying flat on the ground. It was gone the next day. So that's a little bit of fun at that. But the real thing is we're paying more than our fair share of taxes here, and the least they could do is look after our roads and our signs. So it's good to see that you'll support infrastructure.
We need it down here. I mean, this is an economic driver for the province, this region. Whether it's the fishery, the scallop fishery, the lobster fishery. We produce every ambulance that's made in the province in my hometown in Yarmouth.
Oh, really?
And there's manufacturing. There is incredible wealth that's generated in this part of the province. But when it comes to getting public investment or public attention, we have always had to fight tooth and nail for it. It seems money lands a little easier in other parts of the province, but we do deserve to have attention paid here in our infrastructure to be invested in, and critical economic links like our ferries be fully supported.
What we found when we got started, that there's this attitude, there's nothing we can do. And the chamber is proving that we can, and I'm seeing a change in how people are talking and thinking, and I'm seeing people taking initiative to fight for things. So what we have to do is we have to convince our community, and we need to be in communication with you and making sure that we get what's fair and reasonable. We're not looking for anything more than what we're entitled to.
Yeah, and I mean the stuff that you folks have been pushing for, I think, is just important, like twinning the highway.
Yeah.
Important from a safety issue.
Yeah.
So why should we be the only part of the province that doesn't have the 100 series highway completed?
Well, it's kind of crazy because it went dormant, and now what Public Works Engineering is telling me it's no longer dormant, but they said that it's a 12-year plan now, and the first 2 years is a environmental study, which is nonsense because it's a type 1 environmental study. It should only be 50 days, not 2 years. So to me, that's how long can we delay this? And that's wrong. It is moving ahead. So we're happy that we've brought it to life, but we don't want them dragging their feet.
Well, and one thing I've noticed with the PC, with the Conservative government, is that things that go to be studied tend to die. So that's something that we do have to keep track of. 12 years doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
You know, when we were in government, we oversaw the twinning of our other areas of the province. We were looking at eventually getting into this and twinning and finishing and completing the highway, but that didn't take 12 years.
No.
We were in, that was I think a 5-year start to finish.
Yeah.
From starting the study to actually getting the highway highways completed.
And because they did studies before, there must still be relevant information.
I mean, I think this has already been studied because it was part of the study that would have happened during Stephen McNeil's tenure as premier.
That's right.
So I would say that work should be done, and I don't know what new information there would be to change that.
Yeah, that's what I think.
The only other thing would be more people have moved here, and
what wasn't safe before is a lot less safe today.
Yeah, and the population's gone up, right? So if anything, there's just more need to complete that work more quickly.
So I'll put you on the spot. If you're elected, how soon will we get that highway? 5
Oh,
years?
as quick as we can. I mean, we'll be committed to doing that and completing the highway, because again, we've got high value tourists coming out of this part of the province, but also again, we're the District 34 is the lobster capital of the country.
Yeah.
We've got another seafood capital here in Digby. We've got a pile of export that's being driven on our roads that's coming out of this region, and we have to have good highways for that as well. It's important for safety, but it's also critical to our economy. And again, from a fairness perspective, we shouldn't be the only region of the province that doesn't have a 100 series highway completed.
That's right.
And again, our plan when we were in government was eventually to complete that highway with the next phase. Okay. So I'd love to have the chance to be able to actually see that through.
Yeah, we'll be very optimistic about that because it does need to get done. But another issue, like I'm trying to get as knowledgeable as I can, and what I've just found out is, like, for instance, in the oyster industry, Nova Scotia, I understand, has the lowest oyster harvest of any of the Atlantic provinces. And I'm thinking it's probably to do with it takes 7 years to get approval to go ahead. Does that sound reasonable, 7 years to you?
I mean, you have to have, very rigorous environmental processes when it comes to any form of aquaculture, but that's too long for businesses. I mean, if we're going to be a destination for investment, if we're going to diversify our economy and grow our economy and provide the world with the seafood products that they're looking for and consuming, we've got to do a better job on that. I mean, one of the issues is in government time doesn't equal money. Yeah. And I think that's contributed to a culture of things moving very slowly, but that's not the case in the business world. Time is money. And,
time is money, that's right.
And I think we've got incredible opportunities here economically in aquaculture and other resource sectors. Yeah. Again, they have to be done properly and get through, environmental rigor and assessment. But there's opportunities there that we're, I think, squandering because of how long some of these processes take. And they have to be fair. They have to be fair to citizens, residents, to the environment, but they also have to be fair to the businesses that are interested in growing or coming here and investing in our province and creating jobs for people.
Yeah. So speaking of that, this particular area, I understand, has the worst infrastructure for hydro. And that's a problem with people coming in. It's a problem with wanting to go electric vehicles. So one of the problems I've been told is that there's too strict of regulations that can't invest in proactive things. So to me, that's something that needs to be changed. We need to be open for business. We need to have a plan to make sure that Annapolis, Digby area for sure, and into Yarmouth as well, has the electrical infrastructure to support big business coming in.
Of course, and power is an issue everywhere now too. I mean, they're looking at expanding Michelin and the South Shore. Yeah, there's not enough power or they have concerns about the resiliency of the grid and the capacity of the grid to do that. I hear the same thing from other large employers in other parts of the province too. So that is something that we have to figure out. And right now we haven't seen any real plans from the provincial government on how we're going to do that. We've got power rates going up, and we've got a power grid that is less resilient and becoming less dependable. And we're heading into what weather experts are saying is going to be the worst year for hurricanes that we've ever had. And that puts businesses and of course individuals in jeopardy. So our energy capacity is something that does require some attention. And I mean, we're still powering our grid off of coal too.
That's right.
So we also have to do better because coal's expensive now. And of course it's very costly from an environmental and a climate perspective.
That's right. Yeah, just as kind of
and people can't afford it anymore.
That's right.
That's the truth of it.
Well, the cost of living is really crazy. The carbon tax has had a profound impact on the cost of everything. So that and the HST, I know that doesn't really get into groceries so much, but what's your thoughts on the carbon tax and the HST rate we have, the provincial sales tax?
So as leader of the party, I want to see lower taxes in Nova Scotia. We've got some of the highest taxes in the country, and we don't need to have that anymore. Right. We've been advocating to cut the HST by 2 points.
It needs
to also stop charging the HST on top of the carbon tax, which is what Tim Houston's doing.
That's right.
He gets over $30 million a year from doing that. He's benefiting financially from the carbon tax. So we want to lower the sales tax in Nova Scotia. That's fair for people. For fresh produce, it doesn't impact that. You're not charged HST on that. But for any packaged food, if you're doing any for your phone bills, if you're doing any work on your property or renovating your home, all of these things add up on people. And we've got the highest sales tax in the country, and we don't need to have that anymore.
That's right.
Tim Houston's brought in. By luck, I mean he's inherited a strong economic situation, and he's gotten a lot more money from the federal government. But also the population growth has seen him collect in just 2 years $3.4 billion more in revenues, and most of that's coming from the HST. We can give some of that back to people now and make life more affordable. The carbon tax, we've always pushed for a different carbon pricing model here. When we were in government, we did negotiate with the federal government a better deal on carbon pricing. We taxed the larger corporate polluters and then redistributed that money to everyday Nova Scotians so they could put solar panels in their houses, heat pumps in their homes, and to help them get electric vehicles with rebates. So that was called a cap and trade model. Quebec still has that. Other jurisdictions in the U.S. have that. Tim Houston scrapped that, and that triggered the carbon tax. So provincial Liberals actually, are not supportive of the carbon tax model. And when we had the chance and power, we actually negotiated an alternative that kept the price off the pumps for people. So that's a challenge now politically because most people don't know that. Most people didn't know we had a cap and trade system because it was so good. Nobody was bothered by it. Nobody knew about it. But that's how we funded a lot of the energy efficient programs that people benefited from. So we would want to get back to that.
That would be good.
If this election happens and the carbon tax is still in, we would negotiate a different model that would be better for the everyday Nova Scotian and consumer. Because overall, again, the provincial Liberal Party right now, we want to have fairer, lower taxes for people. Yeah. We don't have to have the highest taxes in the country anymore. And I certainly think there's a better model for Nova Scotians on carbon pricing to help do our part for the environment, but also to be more reasonable for people.
Yeah. What do you think about this? What's called the Coastal Protection Plan? That I think the Liberal government here wanted a plan in place, and then the Conservatives came along and scrapped it, and now they want to download it to the property owners. What's your position on that?
This was an important piece of legislation, so we wrote it in government. Tim Houston voted for it, said he would proclaim it, and then has failed to proclaim it. So that's another broken promise among many that he has a record of now. The reason this is important for people is because climate change is real. It's impacting us in very real ways here, with the largest wildfires we've ever had, with the worst hurricanes we've ever had, with the biggest storm surges we've ever had. And we have to protect people from developing in areas that are high risk for storm surge, flood, or erosion. Mm-hmm. So this is about protecting people, and also protecting taxpayers from the liability of these events. So, what happens when these natural disasters hit and people lose their homes or property? The liability eventually does come to government and taxpayers, because insurance doesn't cover all of these things.
That's right.
Particularly, acts of God tend to fall out of the realm of insurance coverage, and the government needs to be able to help people. So it's also protecting the taxpayers from these liabilities too.
That's important.
And if there's going to be some people that have the money to develop along the shore and put armor stone in and put their own protections in, but what's going to happen is then that changes the erosion course along the shoreline, and that's going to impact people down.
That's a good
down from them too. So there's a lot of, I think, important reasons around safety primarily, and liability to the taxpayer and the government that and to protect the environment. That make this piece of legislation very important. And I think if the Premier doesn't follow through on his commitment to proclaim this bill, that's going to be a stain on his record and his legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we need to get the word out to the residents of the province of how important this is, and make sure that everybody's educated. Is there something else you would like to bring up for our viewers?
Well, listen. I'm a Yarmouth boy, born and raised in Yarmouth. I've worked with great representatives from Digby and Clare and along the South Shore as well. And we give so much to this province in our area. Mm-hmm. We produce a lot of wealth. This is, again, one of the great seafood capitals of this country. And unfortunately, we have to keep fighting to get the investments that are needed from an infrastructure perspective to protect our tourism connection to the biggest tourism market in the world, and to ensure that our highways are treated with the same standards as other parts of the province. Again, this is the last part of the province that doesn't have a completed 100 series highway. So these things are all important to me. This region's important to me. But also making life more affordable, dealing with the housing issue, and making the right decisions for the long term of the province are key to the policies that we're developing now and the platform that we're developing. Because I do think we can do better, and I'd love to have a chance with the great group of people that I work with, MLAs from across the province, and the great candidates that we're recruiting to have a chance to give better government to Nova Scotia and to make life more affordable here.
Well, that's fantastic, and on behalf of the Chamber, we really like what you're doing. So this is fantastic. It's great that you see things the way we see them. So we're expecting an election call anytime. So we'll see what happens then. But appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time, Dan. Appreciate it. Great chat.
Yeah.
Look forward to the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
We'll do it again.